Hi everybody, welcome to Langer at the Mic, where today we'll be talking about whether the Montreal Canadiens should or should not trade Josh Anderson. On Saturday, Pierre LeBrun tweeted this in response to a question, that it would have to be a real significant offer for the Montreal Canadiens to trade Josh Anderson, and that the Habs turned down some serious offers for Anderson before the March 21st trade deadline. My sense is Kent Hughes never mentions his name to his GM counterparts, but they keep asking about him. Habs aren't planning on moving him, but never say never. Now, Josh Anderson has 5 more years left on his deal at a cap hit of $5.5 million, which would take him until his age 32 season. He also has a modified no movement clause, which means that until 2024, he can submit an 8-team no trade list, and from 2024 until 2027, he can submit a 5-team no trade list. Now let's get into the pros and cons of trading Josh Anderson, starting with the pros. He scored only 19 goals and 32 points in 69 games this past year, and only 17 goals and 24 points in 52 games the previous year in 2020-2021. And out of 51 forwards getting paid in the $5 to $6 million range, or I should say in the $5 to $6 million cap hit range this season, Josh Anderson was 44th of those 51 forwards in terms of point per game production, which is to say that his contract could become a pretty bad contract in the near future if it isn't already, and the Canadiens should welcome any opportunity that they can to offload it. And they could use that $5.5 million on a more productive player, or to pay their young players when they become restricted free agents, like let's say Cole Caulfield, who is expected to be an RFA after the season, and he is going to get paid. And that's pretty simply the only benefit of trading Josh Anderson, is the ability to offload his contract if his production doesn't match it. So now let's look at the cons. Now, first and foremost, the Montreal Canadiens would be losing the most handsome, or one of the most handsome players in the NHL if they trade Josh Anderson, and that would be sad. Good looks aside though, Josh Anderson is not just valuable to the Montreal Canadiens based on his point per game production or lack thereof. The reason Marc Bergevin traded for Josh Anderson in the first place was because of his combination of size, speed, physicality, and leadership, and those are things that don't always show up on the stat sheet or in advanced stats. You need those intangibles to win, especially in the playoffs. And Josh Anderson is a proven performer in the playoffs, with 2 OT winners that he scored last year and 133 hits in his last 2 playoff appearances. And even though the Habs are rebuilding right now, Anderson can continue to be a veteran mentor and a perfect complement to keep playing with Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and eventually Shane Wright, and maybe Joshua Roy, etc., etc. And that's what the Habs will be giving up if they decide to trade him. Now, what do I think? This answer might bore you, but I think the right answer lies somewhere in between, exactly as Pierre LeBrun tweeted out. Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon, they don't have to actively shop Josh Anderson, but if a team offers them something they can't refuse, they should totally pull the trigger. And then the question just becomes, what should be considered an offer for Josh Anderson that they can't refuse? A first-round pick, a second-round pick, a pick and a prospect, maybe another iffy contract at another position that the Canadiens need, like maybe a goaltender, maybe a right-handed defenseman, possibly a replacement for Jeff Petrie if they decide to trade him, which I'll make another video about sometime soon. But I personally think that if it's a first, that's an easy yes. If it's a second and a legit prospect at an area of need, like another goal scorer, or like I mentioned, right-handed defenseman or goaltender, I'd also take that. Basically, Josh Anderson's value is as high as it will be right now, which is why the price better be right for Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon to consider moving him. Plus, given how Hughes and Gordon got a second-round pick and Justin Barron for Arturi Lehkonen, and they got a first-round pick and Ty Smilanic for Ben Sherratt, and a second-round pick for Brett Kulak, I think that they can get a lot of value for Josh Anderson, and that's what they're pretty much waiting on. And it's just a matter of when that right deal comes along before they actually pull the trigger, if that right deal comes along. But I wouldn't treat it as a situation where they have to get rid of his contract for a bag of pucks, essentially, at least not just yet. Do you think the Montreal Canadiens should trade Josh Anderson? Let me know in the comment section below. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mike Langer for both. And of course, thank you so much for watching this Langer at the Mic production, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Go Habs, go.